This is a screencast of a wireframe prototype for the SAS Infographics project. In this screencast, I will provide a high-level explanation of our prototype and shed some light on the design rationale behind the prototype. We have used Balsamiq as the tool for making this prototype. The goal of this wireframe is to show what an actual software for building infographics would look like. I will be using this prototype to make a simulated infographic in which I will go step by step in order to build the infographic so that I can show you all the relevant tasks, the subtasks, and the explanation of the various screens involved in making the use cases. So the first screen that you see here is the main screen. On the right hand side, you'll see the right panel, which is our main control panel. All the buttons in blue deal with data or the overall structure of the infographic. All the buttons in orange deal with visualizations and other objects that can be added to the infographic. This main big white area in the middle is the main canvas. The idea behind having this main canvas is that the user would be able to add objects to it and move them around freely as they wish to, so that they can directly manipulate the objects and adjust it in any way that they want. On the left side, we have another panel, which is divided into three subpanels. The first one is the Dataset Explorer, in which the current selected datasets and the currently added datasets can be seen here so that the designer has the freedom to choose which dataset they want to work with. The second subpanel here is the Tools panel, wherein we have some commonly and frequently used tools here that the designer can access quickly. The third panel here is the Properties panel. The idea behind this panel is that all the objects on the infographic, when clicked upon, the properties of those objects can be seen here and can be manipulated from here directly. We believe this is a powerful feature which will help the users or the designers in editing the properties of the objects on the fly, and they will not be caught in any workflow restrictions. So the first task that I'll be demoing here is the Open File task. In order to open a dataset, you'll click on the Open File button, select the dataset. Now you have two options. Either you can click Done here and select the datasets in its entirety, or we have an option for the user to select a subset of the dataset. To do that, they'll click on the Select Data button and make selections as per their need. Once they're satisfied with their selection, they can click Done to load the dataset. Once that is done, now we will go about building the infographic. So in order to do that, I have divided this task into multiple steps. The first step is to add a background to our infographic. In order to do that, we'll use the Add Background button. This feature allows the user to select a color as the background of the infographic, or to select an image as the background of the infographic. If they select an image, this provides certain extra options to the user to customize the image as per their needs. Once they're done making the selections, they can click on Done to change and apply those selections. As you can see here, using this tool, we have changed the color of the infographic. The next task is to add a title to our infographic. In order to do this, we will use the Add Text button, in which case on clicking on it, you will see this line here being replaced by the title of the infographic. Now, in our high fidelity implementation, the way this thing works is that once you click on Add Text, a text box is added on the main canvas here, in which you can enter the text that you want, the properties of the text, and manipulate the location of the text to place it anywhere on the map. But since this is Balsamiq, clicking on the add text would simply replace this line here. As you can see, a title has been added here. Our next task is to add some visualizations to our infographics. So the first visualization that we will be adding is a column chart. In order to do that, we'll go to the Select Chart option and select Column Chart. Now this screen allows you to enter certain values for your column chart and select the columns that you want shown from the selected dataset. Once you've entered these values, simply click Done. As you can see, a column chart has been added here with certain predetermined labels. All these other labels that you see here will typically be added using the Add Text option. Our next task is to add an image. In order to do that, we'll click on Add Image. Now in this screen, we give the user some recently used images, as well as an option to upload an image. Additionally, we also allow the user to use the selected image as the background for the entire infographic. The user can simply select the image and click Done. As you can see, an image has been added here on our infographic. The next visualization that we want to add to our infographic are pie charts. In order to do that, we will again go to the Select Chart menu and select Pie Chart. We see the familiar screen wherein we can manipulate certain properties of the pie chart. Select the columns. Once you're satisfied, just click Done. As you can see, 2 pie charts have been added here. Now ideally, in order to add 2 pie charts, you would have to go through this use case twice. But in order to keep this screencast short, we have simulated this behavior. The next visualization that we want to add to our chart, to our infographic, are the line chart. In order to do that, we'll go to Select Chart and select Line Charts. We'll again fill in these values, select the columns, and once we are satisfied, click Done. As you can see, certain visualizations have been added to this infographic, and all the text that you see here can be added using the Add Text option. Here it has been simulated. So now that we have added certain visualizations to our infographics, we look at some other use cases in order to make this visualizations more interesting and more relevant. So the first thing that we will be doing is to add tooltips to our column chart. In order to do so, we'll use the Add Tooltips option and select Custom Tooltips. Now the first screen here allows you to select the target chart, the ones that are on the canvas to which you want to add the tooltips. Once you've selected a chart, all the columns relevant to that chart would be shown here. The user here has the option to select all columns to apply the tooltips to, select certain columns, or select a certain column range. Once they have entered in these values, we click Next. Now our system allows us to make 4 different types of custom tooltips. The first is a custom text, wherein the normal X and Y point values can be wrapped with some relevant text in order to provide a context to these values. The second is a chart type tooltip, wherein a chart based on some other data set can be enclosed inside a tooltip on an existing visualization. The third is an image tooltip, wherein you can put an image inside a tooltip. And the fourth is results from the SQL query tooltip, in which you can run a query in the background, the results of which can be shown in a tooltip. So the first tooltip that we will be demonstrating is a custom text tooltip. In order to do so, you select the custom text option and click Next. This is a generic screen wherein you get to choose certain properties for your tooltips, like the tip direction, the rotation, and the visibility of the tooltips, whether you want your tooltips to be shown always or only when the user hovers over them. Now, in order to demonstrate these use cases, we have made certain temporary links here, and clicking on these links would take us to a screen wherein we'll see the efforts of the previous process. So the first thing that we chose was a formatted text tooltip. In order to see the efforts, we would click on this link. As you can see here, a tooltip has been added here, wherein the actual value is shown here, which is wrapped around with some other text in order to provide some meaning to it. The next kind of tooltip that we will be demonstrating is a query tooltip. In order to add these to this column chart, we will again go to Add Tooltips, go to Custom Tooltips, select the chart and the columns, click Next, and this time we'll go to the Select Variables and Query. Now what you see here are various columns that have been populated. These are the columns which are there in the graph itself. The only reason they exist here is so that the designer has ready access to the columns in order to write the query. Once they have written the query, they can show the result of this query in this format. This can be any variable, which is a column name. Handled is a custom text. Query when result is a result of this query, and this is again a custom text. So basically, when the result of this query is ran, we will get a certain value for certain columns, followed by handle, followed by the result of the fires and the fires. So this becomes a custom formatted text statement. We'll see the result of this in a moment. Once you are done here, just click Done. We again come to the Tooltip Properties screen and select the properties. Now, since we were dealing with query tooltips, we'll click on this link to see the result. As you can see here, this is a query tooltip. The rationale behind this is that we already had some information about the number of cooking fires in the year 2014, but with the help of a SQL query that ran in the background, we are able to show some extra information about this fire. For example, we know the number of cooking fires that happened, but using the query functionality, we're now able to show the breakdown of which station handled what percentage of those cooking fires in the year 2014. We believe this is an important feature and this can really enhance the existing visualizations on the infographics. The next tooltip that we will be demonstrating are chart tooltips. We will again go to Add Tooltips option, select Custom Tooltips, go through this process again, click Next, and this time we'll select a chart. Now, we again support the four different types of chart, and we can add any of those inside a tooltip. Once we've selected the type of chart, we'll bind data to that chart so that the chart will have its own data set enclosed in it. Once we've added data, we simply click on Done. Click Next, select the properties, and since we're dealing with the pie chart tooltip in this case, we'll click this link to see the results. As you can see, upon hovering over this slice of the pie chart, a row chart inside a tooltip has been added. We again believe this is a very good feature wherein you can show some extra information that is hidden from view initially, but once the user hovers over it, they can get a more detailed insight into the data presented. The next use case that we will be presenting is to connect images to an existing visualization. So in this case, we will be adding images to certain markers on our line chart. This is where the properties window of our tool comes handy. This object, this visualization which has already been placed on the infographic, can be clicked and certain properties of it can be accessed or manipulated here. To simulate the behavior, we've added one link here to add images to this line chart. We'll click on this link. Now in this screen, each element or column name can be assigned a separate image, and we can also choose the position of those images, whether we want them above the data elements, inside the data elements in case it was a row chart or a column chart, or below the data elements. Once we are satisfied with the number of columns and the type of images, we can simply click Done. Now in this case, in order to demo this, we've shown two images being placed at certain element markers. We will again demonstrate another use case using the direct manipulation of objects placed on the infographic. In this case, we will be replacing the existing pie charts with pie charts that have images in their slices. To do that, we'll click on the pie chart, and we are presented with two options: replace pie charts with ring charts and replace slices with images. We will choose the replace slices with image. This takes us to a screen wherein we can target the pie charts on the screen. Optionally, we have a toggle to show whether we want the percentages to be shown or not. Now these slices will be populated based on the original pie chart, and to each slice you can add a separate image. You can also set up certain other properties for the image. For example, you can tile the image, you can warp the image around the slice of the pie chart. You can also optionally stretch the image in case the original resolution of the image is not enough. Again, as before, in order to demonstrate the result of this process, we've put a temporary link here, on clicking which will take us to the result of this process. As you can see here, these pie charts, these slices in the pie charts have been replaced with images. This image here is of a flame, and this here is of an alarm clock, which can be used to represent two different types of incidents like actual fires and alarms, false alarms. The last thing that we want to demo is the properties of tooltips. As we've talked about the benefits of having properties on the right hand panel where they can be changed on the fly, we've already demoed this for the line chart and the pie chart. We'll just show a last use case for the tooltips as well. Since this was a text-based tooltip, you can see that certain properties here are shown which can be manipulated in real time. Again, this is a very powerful feature set because it eliminates the needs for the user to go through the visitor process again. It saves us time and really makes the tool more useful. This concludes this screencast. Thank you.